Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Immersive Engineering. Today we're going to be upgrading our crude blast furnace into the next stage so that we can massively increase our speed with producing steel. So if you watched any of the previous series where we created a crude blast furnace, you may be aware of, you put your iron in here, you put in some kind of fuel source, preferably coal coke in there, and then it eventually produces blocks of steel with a side product of slag. Well, this is an extremely slow and painful process. I recommend highly that you take your first few things with a couple aside. Maybe you save like a couple, 3 pieces of steel for making water wheels because, well, they're really good power sources, I have to say, and they're fun, and they look pretty. I recommend you save your first 3 blocks of iron for something a little bit more intense, and then not blocks of iron, blocks of steel that you produce from this so that you can immediately upgrade this to the next stage. Now, upgrading this to the next stage is not going to necessarily allow it to immediately produce things faster, but it will be much more effective. What you're going to be doing is creating reinforced bricks, or blast bricks. So you take your old blast furnace, you break it down, and you then apply steel plates to each brick in a crafting grid, which of course steel plates are just created with steel on an engineer's hammer, and you'll need 27 of those to recreate the entire thing. Now, just to show you, I will therefore place these down, and there we go, and we have ourselves a completed unit here. You, of course, need to put a hopper on top in this case, because this will also have automated input and outputs, unlike the other one where you really had to manually do everything. So, with your first 3 blocks of steel, you can drastically upgrade it, at least. Now, just by right-clicking, it transformed into this wonderful-looking little multi-block structure here. Much prettier than that old one where it just kind of got this little window in the front. And it has all sorts of little ports on it, a chimney on top, and all sorts of interesting stuff. Now, each area has something special about it. It looks exactly the same inside, functions the same inside. It's all the stuff outside that really changes. So, first thing you're going to want to craft up after you've made this thing is going to be blast furnace preheaters. These are made with iron sheet metal and an external heater. Now, I have covered these before, but just a really quick thing. The sheet metal is made with just some iron plates, and the external heater is made with copper ingots and so on. Pretty basic recipe here. You'll need to make 2 of these. The reason I say that is because you see these ports on the side of the new reinforced blast furnace these go on the side. Now, if you don't line it up right, let's say I'm facing this direction and I put it on here, it won't connect properly. So you're going to want to make sure that you are facing the machine when you put these on here, and it will line up properly. And when I look at it, you notice it says in the top left corner there, 0 RF. These actually will hold a certain amount of RF energy. I think it's 16,000? No, maybe a bit more than that. I can't really remember. I haven't topped it out in a little bit. But they hold RF energy. And on the tops of these things, they actually have a little energy input so that you can increase this. These preheaters will help speed up your process considerably, as well. It just makes it look really cool. I mean, am I right? Come on. So, moving on from that, though, you're probably thinking, well, how much power does it need? What am I going to need to do for that? Well, that's where I kind of did a little bit of research beforehand. If you're trying to get set up with this so that it can run automatically, it doesn't just like stall out or something, each one of these preheaters requires 32 flux per tick. So therefore you're going to need 64 flux per tick going into each of these, which means that the minimum amount that you could probably get away with on a couple different energy uses, I'm ignoring the whole idea of like just a regular generator or other mods or something like that. I'm just thinking like Immersive Engineering early stage stuff is probably going to be a couple thermoelectric generators with lava and packed ice. That will actually get you 16 per side, and therefore you can double that up on these in a 4-way pattern and get you 32 per thermoelectric generator. So if you get 2 of those, then you will be set, because each one requires 32. Now, there will be a tiny amount of loss by transferring this across wires and so on. So first, I'm just going to connect this together, and you'll see it is now powering these up, and it is increasing the steel factor and stuff going in here. I'm actually going to remove those, and it will start just like, there we go, 8,000 RF per tick. So there you go. There's 8,000 in each of these ones here. And this is not producing right now because my slag is currently overflowing. So let me remove a bunch of that, put in a bunch more iron, and we'll be good to go. You'll still need your blocks of coal coke. All this is doing is speeding the process. Now this is just one iron ingot being transformed into one steel ingot, but still, look how fast. You can actually see the arrow moving. It's amazing. So this is going at an exponentially greater speed. Now when I turn that off, of course, these are going to drain down very quickly while they're using up what energy is in them. So once those are empty, then you'll notice that the arrow is going to suddenly start slowing down practically to a halt. So there you go. Energy has been used up, and I believe it is, yeah, down to 0 RF. And it's still going to go a little bit because it was preheated, but it's going to be at a much slower rate. So it's like 2 to 3 times as fast at least if you put these preheaters on there. And this is just one of many ways that you could power it. For instance, you could feasibly do this here, where you've got like, if you can't find packed ice, then you could do 3 of the thermoelectric generators with just some little bit of lava, a little bit of water, and you're good to go. That's going to be more than enough, actually. Alternate to that, one triple wheel, water wheel setup is going to get you enough, because that's 88 RF per tick, to cover these easily, because that's like 64 RF for those two, and you'll have a little bit left over. So not a big deal at all. Not a big deal. So at this point, you're probably wondering, well, what about the rest of these ports? Or you might already know because you've experienced this mod. Well, either way, I'm going to tell you. So if you noticed, well, let's turn this back on and get this thing so that it's powering everything out. Now, it has inputs and outputs here. At the top, it has an input for all things that you want to insert, like iron and coal coke. You can toss these up at the top, and let's just toss a bunch of these and a bunch of these, and you'll see that they go inside, and they automatically place into the machine where they were. So if I put all of these, let's see if I can actually line up right so I don't drop these too much, and drop the entire rest of the stack here. Oops, unless I drop one single ingot off the side because it's already full. There you go. It then just fills these right up. Put that in there manually. So that's what the chimney at the top is actually an input for those to function. These blast furnace preheaters are going to act sort of like as an exhaust. I don't really know. But the front and back are for the results. So out the back goes the slag. Now you'll notice I don't have a conveyor belt right now back here, because once I put it down, the slag instantly comes out. There you go. Now if I try to put the conveyor belt at an angle, let's say I do, let's build these up a little bit like this, and then there we go, and I actually rotate it up like this, it's not going to work. Not going to work. It has to actually be at the same height. Let's see if I can actually get this up here. There we go, for the stuff to come out. So there you go. Make sure that your conveyor belt is at the right height when these come out. Now with that in mind, of course your slag comes out, and you can use that for making concrete, which is a wonderful item that I believe mobs will not spawn on. At least it was in the old version. I have not tested that in this new version yet. But in the front, you'll probably think, well, therefore, all that's left is steel ingots. Well, that is correct. Now, you can therefore have them in the same way. Make sure that the conveyor belt that's coming out is level and not on the shelf below it, and it will come out just fine. And I have it currently going down at an angle into these crates that is currently being stacked on just for aesthetic use. You know, who knows? So that's pretty much it. I mean, this is going to speed up your the speed at which you can make steel quite fast. Therefore, you'll actually be able to start making more and more items. I'm going to get into a little bit more next time on like assembly and making some automation. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And, as always, spread the mischief to others if you think they'll enjoy the video. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya.